In this car, in your other cars, there were many leaders, many of your colleagues. And it was recalled that 20 years ago, on these same days, you were riding in a car with Jacques Chirac to events related to the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. Back then, of course. No one could imagine that 20 years later, Russia would not be invited to such events, which are taking place these days. Many are now discussing that there was a very large, the largest German delegation there. Present were also representatives of countries that once served Hitler. Zelensky was there, who applauds Nazis and follows a Nazi policy. What's going on with Europe? Have they completely lost their way, lost themselves, their historical memory? I think it's inappropriate to compare the situation and countries that served, as you said, Hitler, or in general, like Germany, which actually supported Hitler's rise to power, and then led to the beginning of World War II, but that was then. Today's German society has nothing to do with it. Yes, of course, historical memory exists, and we must remember that and not forget it, but to lay the blame on today's generation of Germans for what happened in the 30s and 40s seems to me unfair. But that's just my personal opinion, and people may view it differently. I'm sure there will be varied reactions to it. After all, I've lived in Germany and have many German friends. To this day, I know how they feel about the Nazi past. By the way, the Germans themselves feel guilty and so on. But I want to emphasize again that both today's and future generations should not be deprived of their rights for what occurred once during Hitler's time. That's the first point. Secondly, regarding the European elites, that's a separate issue. In Europe, there were such outstanding global political figures as De Gaulle, then later Mitterrand in modern times, Chirac in Germany, Willy Brandt, Kohl, and Schröder. By the way, I would put in the same category. These are people who had their own opinions and the courage to fight for them, to express them, and to talk about them. At least trying to implement them in practical work. Today, there are practically no such people there. Sometimes you even look with amazement at what is happening. I don't know, some people. They have no education, and they are clearly engaged in a line of work they've never done before. From the point of view of the interest of the citizens of European countries, it's some kind of disaster. I don't know, it's just political small fry. Well, let it be. By the way, this is where various alternatives arise. Yes, and then, in order to combat these alternatives, they try to resort to bans. As if they don't understand that, well, they might ban something today, but tomorrow another alternative with a different name will arise. If there is a societal need for the promotion of a certain political idea, yes, then there's no getting away from it. How did they teach us back then? Present a more advantageous program. Make people believe you, offer your solutions. But right now they're thinking about what and where to ban. Currently, there's some fuss between the European political elite and the newly elected President Trump. Has anything changed since Biden's time? No, nothing has changed. They were more than willing to follow any order from Washington during Biden's time. They just don't like Trump. They actively fought against him. They really interfered in the political life and electoral process in the United States. And then they were bewildered when Trump suddenly won. And then they liked Biden more mentally. You see, mentally. And Trump has different views on what is good, what is bad, including in this gender politics, in some other matters. They kind of don't like this. But I assure you, with Trump's character, with his... So, with perseverance, he will restore order there quite quickly, and you will all see, it will happen soon. Soon, they will all be at the master's feet, gently wagging their tails. Everything will fall into place. As for the invitation or non-invitation to events related to the liberation of Auschwitz, it is, of course, a strange and shameful matter for those who did it. Why? One can have any opinion about Russia's politics today. Any opinion about the head of the Russian state. About me. No one needs to ask for an invitation. But if they thought about it, they could have acted much more subtly. Even if it's impossible to invite the liberators of Auschwitz due to health and age, at least they could have invited some relatives or someone connected to that. And inviting people who consider their national hero to be Bandera, responsible for the Holocaust, responsible for the destruction of hundreds of thousands of Jews, Russians, and even Poles. By the way, the Polish society knows this, and from time to time reminds its political leadership about who Bandera was. Today's Ukrainian leadership has elevated Bandera to the status of a national hero. This is the symbol of Ukrainian statehood today. It even worked better than ever. The head of state, as you mentioned, applauds former SS soldiers who personally destroyed Jews with their own hands, culprits in the Holocaust tragedy. Well, this is certainly very strange. Well, such are today's realities in that Europe we've just talked about.